Hello everyone. Today we're going to keep delving into the story of the Great Qin Empire, zeroing in on Duke Xuan of Qin, a truly ambitious and astutely strategic master, all while his actions belied his calm appearance. During this remarkable period, three brothers successively ascended the throne. Duke Xuan, the eldest son of Duke Dare of Qin, played a pivotal role in the early development of the Qin state. His younger brothers followed suit with the youngest, Duke Mu of Qin, later becoming renowned far and wide for his revolutionary diplomatic strategies and awe, inspiring military conquests that catapulted the Qin state to unprecedented heights. The era of Duke Mu marked the dawn of the Qin state being chronicled in the historical annals of the Central Plains. From then on, the Qin state officially began to attract the attention of the vassal states in the Central Plains and was rightfully listed as one of the 5 hegemons of the spring and autumn period. It's fair to say that the era of Duke Mu was yet another glorious peak for the Qin state, following the footsteps of Duke Xuan of Qin. For better context, Duke Xuan of Qin's reforms in record-keeping were laid the essential foundation for preserving Qin's history, meticulously preserving the state's every significant event. His legal structure was equally crucial, setting up a comprehensive framework not unlike a well-ordered set of rules in a modern-day organization, which became the administrative and legal bedrock that would underpin Qin's future growth and prosperity. From the cataclysmic disaster of Jing, which essentially signaled the fall of the Western Zhou dynasty and heralded the start of the Eastern Zhou period, all the way until Duke Xuan's reign, the Qin state was deeply embroiled in a century-long maelstrom of warfare. Due to its geographical isolation from the Central Plains, think of it as being on the fringes of a bustling social circle. Qin remained largely detached from the major conflicts that were being feverishly chronicled by its more centrally located neighbors. To truly fathom the significant achievements of Duke Mu, it's absolutely essential to trace back to the reign of his predecessor, Duke Xuan. Duke Xuan's era was like the prologue to Duke Mu's epic saga, setting the perfect stage for Duke Mu's transformative leadership. Before Duke Mu's time, the Qin state's connection with the Central Plains was minimal. However, through Duke Mu's unwavering efforts, the Qin state gradually integrated into the Central Plains. First, it emerged as a dominant hegemon in the spring and autumn period, proudly claiming its place among the 5 hegemons. Later, it was counted among the mightiest of the 7 warring states. Eventually, it achieved the remarkable feat of unifying the entire country, and Emperor Qin Shi Huang became the very first emperor in Chinese history. Who could have ever imagined that the ancestors of the Qin state, once dismissed as barbarians, would have descendants who would create such an incredibly glorious and magnificent empire? When Duke Xuan was on the throne, in the heart of the Central Plains, Duke Xuan of Qi rapidly rose to power, marking the grand beginning of the era of the 5 hegemons of the spring and autumn period. The 5 hegemons, these titans of that time, were the 5 most powerful states. However, at that time, the conflicts were mainly concentrated in the areas of present-day Shandong and Henan provinces. For the Qin state, those disputes seemed to be taking place on the other side of the universe, and the Qin state wisely chose to stay out of the fray. The Qin state's borders stretched eastward to the strategically vital Hanggu Pass, which was not only a crucial military stronghold but also a bustling trade gateway, much like a key checkpoint in a major international trade route. Located in present-day Henan, it extended southward to the majestic Qinling Mountains, a natural barrier that was also a treasure trove of resources, stretching across modern Shanxi and Gansu. And it reached westward to the area known today as Tianshui. In each direction, The Qin state's expansion opportunities were very limited. Just like a business that has saturated its local market and is struggling to break into new and unfamiliar regions, the Qin state faced significant hurdles in its expansion plans. If it had broken through Hanggu Pass to the east, it would have immediately clashed with the Guo state, would have resulted in a fierce confrontation. If it had ventured beyond Tianshui to the west, it would have encountered the Western Rong people. The Western Rong people were a group of ethnic minorities living in the western part of ancient China. Their relationship with the Central Plain states were highly intricate and multifaceted, sometimes in fierce conflict, and at other times, engaging in friendly communication. If it had moved northward, it would have directly confronted Duke Xuan of Qin, who was at the zenith of his power at that time. And to the south, the Qinling Mountains stood as an insurmountable natural barrier, like an impenetrable wall. It seemed that there was a glimmer of hope for development in each direction, but in reality, a carefully considered choice was desperately needed. Duke Xuan was a monarch with an extraordinary strategic vision in the long and storied history of the Qin state. His choice was peace, a decision that was an unexpectedly peaceful choice during turbulent times. Instead of seizing every opportunity to attack and expand during those turbulent times, he chose to let the Guangdong region, often referred to as the heartland of ancient China and located in present-day Shanxi province, take a much-needed breather and recuperate. At that time, although the Western Rong people were on the decline, the Qin state did not pounce on the opportunity to attack them. The Qin state continued to submit to the Western Rong people, biding its time. The reason was clear. The Western Rong people were growing weaker and weaker as time went by. It wasn't that the Qin state didn't have its eyes on the land in the west. Rather, the timing just wasn't right. On the one hand, the Qin state patiently waited for the Western Rong people to decline even further. On the other hand, it needed to fully consolidate its newly acquired territory. By adhering to the strategy of only fight when certain of victory, the wisdom of the people of Qin was brilliantly demonstrated. The Qin state maintained amicable, friendly relations with the Western Rong people in the west and with the Guo state in the east. This approach was quite astonishing because at that time, the Guo state was in a deep, almost bottomless crisis, and even the whole Central Plains was in a state of utter turmoil, like a boiling cauldron. However, the Qin state astonishingly gave up this golden, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. During this period, rival states such as Guo and Zheng were vying for influence over the Son of Heaven, the supreme ruler in ancient China. The title of the Son of Heaven was not merely a name. It symbolized the pinnacle of power, carrying both immense political and profound symbolic weight. This intense power struggle allowed the central authority to skillfully leverage their conflicts for balance, much like a tightrope walker using a long pole to maintain equilibrium, subtly but surely restoring its dwindling, diminished influence. The Son of Heaven during Duke Xuan's period was King Hui of Zhou, the fifth emperor of the Eastern Zhou dynasty. After King Hui of Zhou came to power, he seemed to have a knack for trouble, making as he actively provoked disputes among the vassal states, desperately attempting to expand his territory and restore the long-lost authority of the Son of Heaven. However, his actions were triggered widespread turmoil, arousing the deep dissatisfaction of the court ministers. Several ministers then launched a coup, a sudden and dramatic upheaval, and drove King Hui of Zhou off the throne, supporting King Hui of Zhou's uncle as the new ruler. In a state of sheer desperation, King Hui of Zhou began to offer official positions and make all sorts of grand promises, as if he were desperate to secure support. He promised to reward the Guo state and the Zheng state with the land of the Yar, Son of Heaven, if they supported his restoration. Lured by the enticing benefits, the Guo state and the Zheng state launched a rebellion, and together they managed to help King Hui of Zhou regain the throne. This period of turmoil lasted for nearly 2 long years. King Hui of Zhou was first unceremoniously driven off the throne, and then, after much scheming and fighting, restored. During the time when King Hui of Zhou was out of power, the Qin state had a golden, excellent opportunity to attack the Guo state. Because at that time, the Guo state had extremely tense relations with the Jin state and other neighboring states. If the Qin state had taken action then, no state would have rushed to the rescue of the Guo state, leaving it isolated in its struggle. But Duke Xuan did not take the bait. Instead, he chose to maintain friendly, cordial relations with the Guo state, and even secretly lent his support to the Guo state, enabling the Guo state to have no worries in the rear and fully devote itself to the action of supporting King Hui of Zhou's restoration. Eventually, the Guo state became the chief, most important contributor to King Hui of Zhou's restoration, and its power increased significantly, like a small flame turning into a large bonfire. On the surface, it seemed that the Qin state had missed a great, perhaps once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But in fact, at this time, the Qin state had already set its determined sights on the Herxi region in the north. The section of the Yellow River flowing through Shanxi province runs from north to south, like a giant serpent winding its way across the land. The land formed by the bend of the Yellow River is the Herxi region. The Herxi region was an extremely important area in ancient China, with a strategic geographical location that was like a crossroads of different worlds. It was a place where various ethnic groups and cultures intersected, and it had a profound and far-reaching impact on the political, economic, and military development of the states in ancient China. During Duke Xuan's period, this area belonged neither to the Jin state nor to the Qin state, but was occupied by a state called the Baidi. The Baidi was an ethnic group or a state in ancient China. They had their own distinct territory and a formidable military strength, playing an important, almost pivotal role in the regional power pattern at that time. The Qin state had always had its eyes on the prize, longing to occupy the Herxi region, but the Baidi was no easy opponent. Proved to be a formidable opponent, the ruler of the Jin state at that time was Duke Xuan of Jin. He was the father of Duke Wen of Jin, one of the 5 hegemons of the spring and autumn period, and was well known far and wide for his rather unique practice of marrying foreign women. The Jin state was extremely powerful at that time, dominated the region with unrivaled power. Duke Xuan of Jin suddenly launched a war against the Baidi, a surprise attack that was with a sudden, unexpected strike. After defeating the Baidi, he occupied the Herxi region. This period was the absolute peak of the military strength of the Jin state. The Qin state had been closely watching the war between the Jin state and the Baidi, remaining detached from the fray. It also had no desire to be caught up in the chaos of King Hui of Zhou's restoration. Therefore, it was somewhat looked down upon by all parties, being regarded as an outsider by all parties. However, Duke Xuan, who had always advocated peace, was by no means weak. He was just patiently waiting for the right moment, like a hunter waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Suddenly, when the time was just right, with timely decisiveness, Duke Xuan acted with lightning-fast decisiveness. The Qin army advanced north into the Herxi region, directly challenging the arrogant Jin forces, directly challenging the formidable Jin forces. Simultaneously, an alliance between the Guo and Yu states launched a surprise attack from behind, invading southern Jin and threatening its capital, executing a well-coordinated surprise attack. This coordinated, well-planned maneuver forced Duke Xuan of Qin to withdraw, ceding the Herxi region to Qin without further bloodshed, resulting in the withdrawal of Qin forces and the peaceful cession of the Herxi region. Why was the Herxi region so incredibly important? Looking at the history of the Warring States period, the Qin state and the Wei state fought 5 major, intense battles successively for the control of the Herxi region, and both sides suffered heavy, almost crippling losses. After the Wei state lost the Herxi region, it gradually declined over time. This was because the Herxi region was of utmost crucial importance for the Qin state's westward expansion. Once the Qin state occupied the Herxi region, the Wei state could no longer expand westward, as if it had hit a solid wall. The north of the Wei state had been preemptively occupied by the Zhao state, which severely limited the development space of the Wei state. Its development space was severely constrained, and after the Qin state occupied the Herxi region, it was able to effectively block the Qin state, and had a highly favorable environment for westward development. The Qin state waited patiently for the Western Rong people to decline, and eventually annexed them, successfully annexed its weaker neighbor. Annexing the Western Rong people brought many substantial benefits. Whoever controlled the Western Rong people could dominate the trade between China and the entire Northwest region, and obtain huge, almost limitless economic benefits and strategic resources. Added, after the Qin state annexed the Western Rong people, not only did its territory expanded significantly, but it also obtained a large number of excellent pastures. These pastures were like a gold mine for the Qin state, providing the essential material basis for developing its cavalry. Cavalry was a supremely powerful military force in ancient warfare, and the availability of good pastures was as essential as water is to a fish for raising horses and maintaining a strong cavalry. During the spring and autumn period and the Warring States period, the Qin state won the most battles, but it also lost a great many. The overall war losses were extremely, almost unbearably large. However, the Qin state seemed to have a unique, almost magical ability. No matter how many losses it suffered, it could quickly replenish its strength and continue to fight, quickly replenished its strength. Eventually, the 6 states in the Central Plains were gradually dragged down by the powerful, seemingly inexhaustible resource reserves of the Qin state. The reason why the Qin state had such a solid, unshakable foundation was precisely because of its vast, expansive territory and rich, abundant resources. In essence, Duke Xuan's strategy was one of remarkable patience and shrewd calculation. After securing the Herxi region, he effectively blocked enemy advances into Western Rong territory, choosing to wait calmly for the right moment for his rivals to weaken. It was a strategy that truly paid off in the long run. That's all for today's exciting journey through the rich history of the Qin state. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to subscribe and follow for more fascinating, enthralling stories from ancient China.